Welcome, dear dreamer. My name is Ben. The day is behind you. This is your time to rest, to slow down, and to wander into the quiet landscapes of night. Tonight, we will journey together into the mysteries of sleep, where science and story blend with wonder, where the mind drifts between dreams and deep stillness. So, close your eyes, let each breath carry you deeper, and prepare to step softly into the dreaming world. What is sleep, and why do we dream? Tonight, dear dreamer, we dive deep into the sleeping brain to uncover what your mind is really up to while you're off in dreamland. Let's begin with the obvious. We all sleep, unless you're a vampire, a particularly stubborn AI, or a character in a psychological thriller. You probably spend about a third of your life unconscious in bed. But why? Let's unpack the science, the theories, and yes, we'll flirt with a little mystery too. Because as much as we've learned, dreams still play hard to get. First, let's kill the myth that sleep is just the brain turning off. That's like saying the internet disappears when you close your laptop. Your brain during sleep is anything but idle. In fact, it's buzzing with activity, just in a different mode. Sleep is a complex biological process involving a series of distinct stages that repeat in cycles through the night. The two main categories are non-REM sleep, non-rapid eye movement, REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Let's break those down. Stage 1, non-REM 1, light sleep. This is the twilight zone between wakefulness and sleep. Your muscles relax, your heart rate slows, and your brain starts producing theta waves, slower, more synchronized patterns than in your waking state. This stage usually lasts just a few minutes. If someone nudges you here, you might swear you weren't asleep. Spoiler, you were. Stage 2, non-REM 2. Things get deeper. Your body temperature drops, your eye movements stop, and the brain produces something called sleep spindles and K complexes. These are like neurological, do not disturb signs, helping you stay asleep and filtering out external noise. This stage makes up the largest chunk of our total sleep time. Stage 3, non-REM 3, slow wave sleep. Now we're in deep sleep where delta waves dominate. This is the holy grail of restorative sleep. Your muscles repair, tissues grow, and your immune system gets a boost. It's also when sleepwalking and night terrors are most likely to occur. Spooky, right? Stage 4, REM sleep. Roughly 90 minutes into your slumber, you hit REM. This is where the magic happens. Your brain becomes almost as active as it is when you're awake. Your eyes dart around under your lids, and most famously, this is when most vivid dreaming occurs. Your voluntary muscles are paralyzed, so you don't act out your dreams, but your brain is on fire with imagination. Each sleep cycle lasts about 90 minutes, and you go through 4 to 6 of them per night. The REM stages get longer as the night progresses, so the juicy, surreal dreams tend to come later in your sleep. Here's a riddle. If evolution is about survival, why would nature design a state where you're unconscious, immobile, and vulnerable to predators for hours? Why didn't we evolve to just rest while staying alert? Scientists have proposed several theories. One restorative theory, sleep, allows the body and brain to repair itself. It clears out metabolic waste, restores energy, and boosts the immune system. Think of it like taking your brain to the car wash. energy conservation theory. It saves energy. You burn fewer calories while sleeping, which in the days before Uber Eats and LED lighting made a big difference in survival. Brain plasticity theory. Sleep helps with learning and memory. During sleep, particularly deep and REM sleep, your brain consolidates what you've learned and makes new connections. It's like the brain's version of hitting save on your day. Glymphatic system theory recently discovered. This theory suggests that sleep activates the brain's cleaning crew. The glymphatic system, which flushes out toxins that build up during the day, including beta amyloid, which is linked to Alzheimer's. So yeah, sleep is housekeeping. Bottom line, we don't know everything, but we know this: no animal can survive without sleep. Even fruit flies need a nap. Okay, but why do we dream? Dreams are the Netflix originals of the subconscious, bizarre plots, strange cameos, logic thrown out the window, and yet somehow they're about us. Scientists are still debating the purpose of dreams, but here are some of the leading theories. Freud's theory of wish fulfillment. Freud said, dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, expressing our repressed desires in symbolic form. Basically, you dream about flying because you're craving freedom or something spicier. Today, we see Freud's ideas as outdated but still culturally influential. Activation synthesis theory. This one's more scientific. During REM sleep, the brainstem fires random signals to the cortex. The brain, being the meaning-making machine it is, tries to interpret the noise, resulting in dreams. So dreams might be the brain improvising a story from static. Threat simulation theory proposed by Finnish researcher Antti Raansuu. This theory suggests dreams evolved to simulate threats, so we could rehearse survival skills in a safe environment. Think of it as the brain running a survival drill while the body sleeps. Memory consolidation, another leading theory. Dreams help process emotions, experiences, and memories from the day. Dreams might be a kind of emotional filing system, taking the chaos of waking life and sorting it into categories like remember this, let go of that, and what even was that? Creativity and problem-solving dreams may also serve a creative function. Paul McCartney famously heard the melody for Yesterday in a dream. Kool-Aid discovered the structure of benzene from a dream about a snake biting its tail. If you've ever woken up with a solution you couldn't find the night before, your dreams might have done the math. You might be wondering, does everyone dream? The short answer is yes. Even people who claim they never dream usually just don't remember them. Dream recall varies from person to person and from night to night. Some people wake up with entire story arcs, others catch just a vague mood or a single image. Your recall improves if you wake during sleep or keep a dream journal. Also, all mammals dream. So do birds. Reptiles that's still under investigation. But your dog kicking in its sleep, probably chasing dream squirrels. Ever dreamt about showing up to school naked, falling off a cliff, losing your teeth? These themes are surprisingly universal, no matter your culture or age. Certain symbols pop up over and over. Here are a few. Falling, often linked to feeling out of control or insecure. Being chased, classic anxiety dream. Something unresolved may be on your tail. Teeth falling out, usually tied to powerlessness, embarrassment, or transition. Taking an exam you didn't study for performance anxiety, imposter syndrome, fear of being unprepared. These dreams don't have a single meaning, but they often reflect emotional states or stressors. Your brain is speaking in metaphor, you just have to decode the dialect. Sleep is not a luxury, it's not lost time. It's a physiological necessity, a neurological tune-up, and a gateway to the weird, wonderful realm of dreams inside the dreaming brain. Now, dear dreamer, we're getting under the hood, we're cracking open the skull metaphorically, don't panic, and looking at what's actually happening in your brain while you sleep, and more importantly, while you dream. Spoiler alert, it's not just sheep and silence up there. Sleep is not a power down, it's a reboot. You might think of sleep as turning the brain off a nightly shutdown, but that's a myth. If anything, the brain is working overtime. Different regions light up and shut down in a highly coordinated dance. As I mentioned, there are 4 main stages of sleep and 2 primary categories, non-REM and REM. Dreams can occur in both, but REM is the headliner. So, what's going on in your head while you're snoozing? Let's break it down. non-REM sleep maintenance mode. During the first part of the night, your brain cruises through non-REM stages. This is when the body repairs, tissues builds bone and muscle, and strengthens the immune system. Neurologically, non-REM sleep is marked by slow wave activity, low frequency, high amplitude delta waves. The cerebral cortex gets quieter, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening. non-REM is crucial for memory consolidation, especially declarative memories, facts, events, synaptic pruning, trimming neural connections. You don't need cerebros, spinal fluid circulation, lymphatic system. So basically, your brain is doing some high-level janitorial work while you're out cold. But the fireworks start in REM. REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, is where most vivid dreaming occurs. Your brain waves during REM look surprisingly similar to when you're awake, low amplitude, high frequency activity. Here's what's wild. During REM, your brain becomes a paradox. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, self-awareness, and decision, goes mostly offline. Meanwhile, emotional and visual centers go full tilt. Here's a quick tour of the brain's dream team. Amygdala, the drama queen. The amygdala, which processes emotions like fear and pleasure, is highly active. That's why dreams are often emotional roller coasters. You're not imagining things, your brain is being extra. Hippocampus, the archivist. The hippocampus plays a key role in memory formation. During REM, it's believed to replay fragments of your day, mixing them with past memories. It's like your brain is making a movie using yesterday's footage and decades-old B-roll. Occipital lobe, the visual director. This area responsible for processing visual information is lit up during REM, which explains why dreams can be so vivid, surreal, or cinematic, sometimes all 3 at once. Prefrontal cortex suspended operations. This is the rational, sensible part of your brain. In REM, it goes dark. That's why your dreams can feature plot holes bigger than the Grand Canyon, and you just go with it. You're riding a unicycle on Mars while talking to your 3rd grade teacher sure makes sense. Brain stem, the bouncer. The brain stem regulates REM paralysis, that dreamy body freeze that keeps you from acting out your adventures. Ever feel like you can't move when waking up? That's your brain stem still on mode. More on that in our sleep paralysis chapter. Dreams aren't just about electric activity, they're soaked in brain chemicals. During REM, there's a cocktail of neurotransmitters shaking things up. Acetylcholine increases, enhancing REM and dream vividness. Serotonin and norepinephrine drop, reducing logical reasoning and external focus. Dopamine rises while fueling dream creativity, motivation, and emotion. So, what do you get when logic is low, emotions are high, and your imagination is off the leash? A dream. Even when we're awake, the brain has a built-in circuit called the default mode network DMN. It's active during daydreaming, introspection, and mind wandering. In sleep, particularly REM, the DMN may contribute to our ability to simulate social interactions, future scenarios, or emotionally charged events. It's like your internal simulator keeps running after hours. The DMN might help explain why dreams feel so U-shaped. They're deeply personal yet totally bizarre, like a psychological kaleidoscope. Here's the plot twist. We still don't fully understand how or why all this happens. We know which parts of the brain are involved. We know what chemicals flood the system. But the subjective experience of dreaming's still one of neuroscience's greatest puzzles. Some questions that remain. Why do only some people remember dreams? Why do certain dreams feel hyper-real? Can we manipulate dream content consistently? Researchers are experimenting with lucid dreaming, targeted memory reactivation, even dream engineering, but we're still in the early innings. When your eyes close at night, your brain flips into one of its most active, mysterious states. It's more than rest. It's reorganization. It's emotional processing. It's virtual reality, created from your own memories and feelings. The dreaming brain is like a director, screenwriter, and projectionist, all in one. Crafting worlds, staging metaphors, and sometimes just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Next time you wake up from a dream that makes zero sense, just remember, it wasn't nonsense to your brain, it was meaningful, biochemical, and exquisitely weird. Nightmares when dreams go dark. Let's be honest, dreaming isn't always rainbows and flying unicorns. Sometimes dreams grab us by the gut, crank up the fear, and drop us into a psychological horror film we didn't audition for. We've all been there, the falling sensation, the monster chase, the silent scream. But what exactly are nightmares? Why do they happen? And can we stop them? A nightmare isn't just a bad dream, it's a bad dream that wakes you up. And it usually comes with intense emotions, fear, anxiety, helplessness, even shame. According to the International Classification of Sleep Disorders, nightmares are repeated occurrences of extended, extremely dysphoric and well-remembered dreams that usually involve threats to survival security or physical integrity. Translation: your brain is staging full-blown panic theater. Nightmares typically occur during the REM stage of sleep. That's when our most vivid dreams unfold. And because REM gets longer in the second half of the night, nightmares often strike in the early morning hours. Let's look at what's behind the curtain. Nightmares are complex, and not everyone has the same triggers. But the usual suspects include stress and anxiety, big life changes, chronic worry, or emotional overload can all stir the pot. Nightmares can act as a mirror for your stress, twisted, exaggerated, and dramatized. Trauma and PTSD. Trauma-related nightmares are often intense, recurring, and difficult to shake. People with PTSD may relive traumatic events in their sleep, sometimes with vivid realism. It's not just scary, it's exhausting. Sleep disorders. Conditions like sleep, apnea, and restless leg syndrome can disrupt sleep and increase the chance of nightmares. medications, and substances. Some antidepressants, blood pressure meds, and even nicotine or alcohol withdrawal can influence REM sleep and make nightmares more frequent. Illness and fever. Ever had a nightmare while running a fever that's not a coincidence? Elevated body temperature can alter brain activity and trigger strange or disturbing dreams. Late night eating. It sounds silly, but a heavy or spicy meal before bed can raise metabolism and brain activity during REM and sometimes stir up a storm. What's the purpose of a nightmare? This is where it gets interesting. Despite how awful they feel, nightmares might be trying to help. The threat simulation theory. One evolutionary theory suggests that nightmares are mental rehearsals for dangerous situations, like fear-based simulations. The idea is, if your brain can practice reacting to threats while you sleep, you might respond better in real life. Think of it as primal training wheels. Emotional regulation. Nightmares might also help us process difficult emotions. They bring our unconscious fears to the surface, even if they do it like a horror film director. It's not elegant, but it's emotional processing in progress. Psychological signals. Sometimes a nightmare isn't symbolic or subconscious, it's a smoke alarm. Your brain may be signaling that something in your waking life needs attention, whether it's unresolved conflict, trauma, or just burnout. Your dream is the messenger. Some people experience the same nightmare over and over. You know, the same theme, setting, or fear. These are called recurrent nightmares, and they can be emotionally and physically draining. They're especially common in people with anxiety, depression, or PTSD. But even in people without mental health issues, they often point to a recurring emotional pattern or stressor. So if you're constantly being chased, falling, or facing something terrifying in your dreams, your brain might be stuck in a loop. Let's clear something up. Nightmares and night terrors are not the same thing. Nightmares happen during sleep. You usually wake up and remember them. Night terrors happen during deep non-REM sleep, typically in children. The sleeper might scream, thrash, or look terrified, but they often don't wake up fully or remember anything. Night terrors are more about the body's fear response getting triggered, while nightmares are mental and emotional. Nightmares suck, but you're not powerless. Here are science-backed strategies to reduce their frequency or intensity. Improve sleep hygiene. Consistent bedtime, cool, dark room. No screens before bed. Your brain needs a peaceful landing pad, not a rave. Address stress and anxiety. Therapy, mindfulness, journaling. These tools help your waking brain manage emotions, so your dreaming brain doesn't have to scream about them. Cognitive behavioral therapy for nightmares, CBTN, and this includes image rehearsal therapy, IRT, where you rewrite your nightmare while awake and mentally rehearse a new, less scary ending. It's surprisingly effective. Limit stimulants and alcohol. Caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol mess with your sleep architecture and can spike nightmare frequency. Medication last resort. For people with PTSD or severe nightmare disorders, certain medications like Pressocin have been used to reduce nightmares. Always under medical supervision, of course. Should you interpret nightmares? The juicy question. What do nightmares mean? Interpretation can be useful not in the dream dictionary sense, but in the psychological sense. Ask yourself, what emotions were strongest in the dream? What current situations in my life evoke similar feelings? Is this a recurring theme? You don't have to overanalyze every dream, But if something keeps showing up, it's worth exploring. Your subconscious might be writing in all caps for a reason. Nightmares are unnerving, but they're not your enemy. They're your brain's attempt to process, alert, rehearse, or adapt. Yes, they can be disruptive, but they're also a window into your mind's deepest workings. And the good news, you're not trapped. With tools, awareness, and the right support, nightmares can lose their grip or even become something you learn from. Don't fear the dream, understand it. Lucid dreaming, hacking the dream world. Now, we're stepping into the matrix, not metaphorically. Okay, maybe a little metaphorically, because lucid dreaming is the closest thing we have to a natural internal version of virtual reality. One where you are both the player and the programmer. If you've ever realized you were dreaming while still in the dream and then changed what happened, that's lucid dreaming. It's part science, part art, and part Jedi mind trick. So let's dive in. Lucid dreaming is when you become aware that you're dreaming and often can influence or control the dream. It's not just waking up in the dream, it's gaining consciousness within it. Suddenly the laws of reality are optional. You can fly, breathe, underwater, talk to dream characters, revisit memories, or create whole new worlds. And yes, it's real, verified by science. In fact, researchers have watched lucid dreamers in sleep labs signal with their eyes while dreaming, matching pre-agreed eye movement codes. That's how we know for sure lucid dreamers are in there, and they know it. Let's peek under the neurological hood. In most REM dreams, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-awareness and logical thinking, is mostly offline. But during lucid dreaming, something weird happens. The prefrontal cortex partially reactivates, while the rest of the brain stays in REM mode. So you're still dreaming, but your executive functions are back at the wheel. You're conscious within unconsciousness. It's like your brain glitches just enough to let you hold the controller. This unique brain state is sometimes called hybrid consciousness, a mix of dreaming and waking patterns. Who can lucid dream? Short answer, pretty much anyone. Some people lucid dream naturally, often since childhood. For others it takes practice, but research shows that with consistent effort, most people can experience lucidity at least occasionally. Lucid dreaming tends to be more common among people with high dream recall meditators and mindfulness practitioners, people with irregular sleep schedules or frequent awakenings, creative thinkers. The good news, it's a skill you can develop. Ready to try it yourself? Here are some proven techniques. Dream journaling. Write down your dreams every morning. This trains your brain to remember dreams and starts increasing awareness of dream patterns. Reality checks. Several times a day, ask yourself, am I dreaming? Try pushing your finger through your palm, looking at a digital clock twice, or reading text. If it changes or warps, you might be dreaming. These checks build the habit of questioning reality, which can carry into your dreams. Mild mnemonic induction of lucid dreams. Before sleep, repeat a phrase like, next time I'm dreaming, I will realize I'm dreaming. Combine this with visualization of becoming lucid in a recent dream. WBTB, wake back to bed. Wake up after 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Stay awake for 20 to 30 minutes, then go back to sleep with the intention to lucid dream. This increases intensity and awareness. Wild wake initiated lucid dream. This is advanced. You stay mentally awake while your body falls asleep, transitioning consciously into a dream. It can feel like slipping through a veil and may involve sleep paralysis, not for beginners but powerful if mastered. Lucid dreaming isn't just a novelty, it has real-world applications. Overcoming nightmares. Once you become lucid, you can change the narrative, confront the monster, fly away, turn fear into curiosity. This makes lucid dreaming a potential therapeutic tool. Practicing skills. Studies have shown athletes and musicians using lucid dreams to rehearse with measurable performance improvement. Your brain treats imagined practice in REM similarly to physical practice. Exploring creativity. I want to talk to your subconscious, build dream architecture, compose music in your sleep. Lucid dreaming offers a direct line to your imagination without reality's limits. Self-discovery. Many lucid dreamers report profound emotional or philosophical insights. Think of it as inner space exploration. Lucid dreaming is safe for most people, but here are a few caveats. Sleep disruption. If you're waking often to record dreams or do WBTB, it can mess with overall sleep quality. Sleep paralysis. Trying techniques like wild can sometimes lead to awareness during rematonia, which can be unnerving. Overexcitement. Getting too hyped in a lucid dream can snap you awake. The trick is to stay calm like a spy in a dream tuxedo. Also, despite what some forums say, no, you can't get stuck in a dream. You'll always wake up eventually. Lucid dreaming was once the domain of mystics and dream yogis, but today it's a legit research field. Neuroscientists study lucid dreaming to learn about consciousness, memory, and perception. It's one of the few times we can observe someone being conscious inside a non-conscious brain state. And yes, labs are trying to influence dreams using sound, light cues, and even targeted memory reactivation. One study at Northwestern University even showed that lucid dreamers could answer yes, no questions from researchers while dreaming. So yeah, the dream world might not be as closed off as we thought. Lucid dreaming is a rare invitation, a conscious trip into your unconscious mind. It takes practice, patience, curiosity, but when it clicks, it's like stepping through a portal to your own imagination. Tonight, when your head hits the pillow, ask yourself, what if this is the dream? Then look twice at your hands, read something, jump, and if you start to fly, stay cool, you're in. Sleep paralysis, trapped between worlds. You wake up but you can't move. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. You sense a presence in the room, something dark, something watching, maybe sitting on your chest. You're awake and yet somehow not. If this has happened to you, you've experienced sleep paralysis. It's terrifying, surreal, and steeped in centuries of myth. But science has some pretty compelling answers too. Let's unravel what's happening biologically, psychologically, and culturally when your mind wakes up and your body stays behind. Sleep paralysis is a temporary inability to move or speak that occurs when you're waking up or falling asleep. It lasts a few seconds to a couple of minutes, and during it you're conscious, often vividly aware of your surrounding, but utterly frozen. It's classified as a type of parasomnia, which means it's a disruptive sleep event, unlike nightmares or sleepwalking. Sleep paralysis strikes in the liminal space, the transition zone between REM sleep and wakefulness. It can be frightening on its own, but what makes it deeply disturbing for many people is the hallucinations. Researchers have found that sleep paralysis often comes with one or more of the following hallucinatory experiences. Intruder hallucinations. This is the most common, the overwhelming sense that someone or something is in the room. You might hear footsteps, whispers, breathing. You might see a shadowy figure approaching. Your body is paralyzed, but your fear system is in overdrive. Chest pressure, incubus hallucinations. This involves the sensation of being suffocated, pinned down, or having something sitting on your chest. It's a primal fear, helplessness, breathlessness, doom. Vestibular motor out-of-body hallucinations. This includes floating, flying, or feeling like you're leaving your body. Some people describe these episodes as spiritual or euphoric. Others find them disorienting and uncanny. These experiences are so intense, they've inspired folklore all over the world. Sleep paralysis has a long and colourful mythological resume. In Japan, it's called kanashibari, thought to be caused by vengeful spirits. In Nigeria, the Yoruba describe it as the devil riding your back. In Scandinavian folklore, a mare, a night demon, sits on the chest and steals breath. In the US, sleep paralysis experiences helped shape early alien abduction narratives. Despite the differences, the core experience, frozen body, malevolent presence, is strikingly universal. But what's actually happening? Let's bring in the science. During REM sleep, your brain is highly active, but your body is essentially paralyzed. This is called REM atonia, and it's a safety feature. It keeps you from acting out your dreams. Sleep paralysis happens when this mechanism lingers into wakefulness. Your brain wakes up at least the conscious parts, but your body remains locked in REM mode. You're alert enough to perceive your environment, but still stuck in a dreamlike brain state. This hybrid state leads to a mix of reality and hallucination. The fear response, powered by the amygdala, kicks in hard. Your fight or flight system revs up, but you can't fight or flee, so your brain improvises. It fills in the gaps with nightmarish logic. Add to that the disorientation of waking in the dark, possibly with labored breathing or sleep apnoea, and your brain concocts a threat narrative. There's someone here. They're sitting on me. I'm going to die. It's terrifying, but it's a glitch, not a ghost. Sleep paralysis can happen to anyone, but some people are more prone to it. Risk factors include sleep deprivation, irregular sleep schedule, jet lag or shift work, sleeping on your back, high stress or anxiety, other sleep disorders like narcolepsy. Some people experience it once or twice in a lifetime. Others have chronic episodes, sometimes weekly. There's also a strong link between sleep paralysis and people who have vivid dreams, nightmares, or lucid dreams. Basically, the more vivid your dream life, the blurrier the boundary between sleep and waking can get. If you've experienced sleep paralysis, you know how helpless it can feel, but there are things you can do to reduce its frequency and manage its intensity. First, prioritize sleep hygiene. A consistent sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, stabilizes your REM cycles and reduces the chance of waking up in the middle of one. Most cases of sleep paralysis happen during disrupted or fragmented sleep. Avoid stimulants like caffeine or nicotine late in the day. Reduce alcohol, which can interfere with REM and lead to rebound effects. Create a sleep environment that's quiet, cool, and dark. Try not to sleep on your back. Many episodes occur in this position, possibly because of how gravity affects breathing and muscle tone. If you feel an episode coming on, maybe you're half awake, and sensing it, try to focus on controlled breathing. Shift your attention to wiggling a toe or a finger. Small movements often help break the paralysis. And if you're comfortable, try reframing the experience. This is especially powerful for people who have repeat episodes. Recognizing that it's a physiological quirk, not a supernatural attack, can reduce fear and help you stay calm during the event. Believe it or not, some people have learned to use sleep paralysis as a launch pad into lucid dreaming or out-of-body experiences. They train themselves to remain calm and ride the transition into a dream world. It's not for everyone, especially not if you're prone to anxiety. But it's a reminder that even the scariest experiences can hold insight. Ultimately, sleep paralysis is a glitch in a beautifully complex system. Your brain is trying to shift gears between dreaming and waking, and sometimes it stalls. It's terrifying in the moment, but it passes. And knowing what's happening robs the darkness of some of its power. Sleepwalking the brain on autopilot. Now, dear dreamer, we're tiptoeing into one of the strangest behaviors the sleeping brain can produce. Picture this: it's 2 a.m. You get out of bed, shuffle to the kitchen, open the fridge, maybe grab a snack, but you're fast asleep. You wake up later with crumbs in your bed and no memory of how they got there. This isn't a dream. This is sleepwalking. It's eerie, it's mysterious, and it's surprisingly common. Sleepwalking, or somnambulism, is a type of parasomnia, just like sleep paralysis. But where paralysis keeps you frozen in place, sleepwalking turns your body loose while your mind is offline. It typically occurs during non-REM stage 3, sleep that's deep, slow wave sleep. This is important because it means sleepwalking is not dreaming. The brain is in a very different state than during where dreams usually occur. In fact, sleepwalking happens when the brain is partially awake enough to move, enough to walk, but not enough to form new memories or make decisions consciously. It's like your motor system gets hijacked while the thinking part of your brain is still on mute. Most episodes are short and harmless. A sleepwalker might sit up in bed, mumble, walk around the room, or go to the bathroom. But some sleepwalkers engage in more complex and sometimes dangerous behaviors, preparing food, moving furniture, trying to leave the house, driving. Yes, it happens. Sleepwalkers usually have their eyes open but glazed, and they're difficult to wake. If they do wake, they're often confused, disoriented, and have no memory of what just happened. Sleepwalking is most common in children, particularly between ages 4 and 12. Most kids grow out of it as their brains mature. But it can also affect adults, and in adults it's more likely to be chronic or linked to other conditions. Triggers and risk factors include sleep deprivation, stress, or anxiety fever, especially in kids, alcohol or sedatives, certain medications, sleep disorders like sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome, genetics. It runs in families. It's estimated that about 1 in 3 people sleepwalk at least once in their life. About 1 to 2% of adults experience it regularly. During deep sleep, your brain enters a highly synchronized state, slow delta waves, reduced consciousness, low muscle activity. But sometimes certain brain regions wake up prematurely. The motor cortex, which controls movement, becomes active, while the prefrontal cortex responsible for decision-making and awareness stays asleep. This disconnect is what allows a person to perform actions without awareness or memory. They're functioning but not consciously. It's not unlike a computer waking from sleep mode, just enough to execute a background task, but without the user logging in. Most of the time, sleepwalking is more startling than harmful, but risks do exist. Walking into walls or downstairs, leaving the house, operating appliances or vehicles, injuring others or themselves unintentionally. There are also rare legal cases where sleepwalking has been used as a defense for violent or inappropriate behavior. These are highly controversial and complex, but they underscore the fact that sleepwalking can go far beyond a midnight stroll. So, what can you do if you or someone you live with is a sleepwalker? Prioritize sleep hygiene. Sleep deprivation is a major trigger. Stick to a consistent sleep schedule, limit caffeine and alcohol, and create a calming wind-down routine. Reduce stress, since stress can increase deep sleep instability. Relaxation techniques, meditation, breathing exercises, therapy may help reduce episodes. Create a safe environment. Lock doors and windows, remove sharp objects or tripping hazards. Consider using alarms or motion sensors if sleepwalking is frequent or dangerous. Don't wake a sleepwalker if you can help it. It's not dangerous to wake them, but it can be disorienting. Instead, gently guide them back to bed if possible. Consult a sleep specialist if sleepwalking is frequent, intense, or leading to dangerous behavior. Talk to a doctor. A sleep study may help uncover underlying causes, and treatment options range from behavioral therapy to, in some cases, medication. Sleepwalking is one of the strangest things a brain can do, acting out without full consciousness. It reminds us that sleep isn't an off switch. It's a dynamic, layered state where different parts of the brain can operate on different timelines. Whether it's a child wandering the hallway or an adult making toast at 3 a.m. with no memory of it, sleepwalking is both eerie and oddly poetic, a sleep state that doesn't want to stay still. Narcolepsy, when sleep strikes without warning. We're stepping into one of the most misunderstood and often misrepresented sleep disorders out there. A condition that blends the boundaries between waking and dreaming in a way few can imagine. Narcolepsy isn't just about being sleepy. It's not about being lazy or bored or too tired to care. It's a chronic neurological condition that rewires how the brain regulates sleep and wakefulness. And for those who live with it, it's a daily dance between control and surrender. Narcolepsy is often portrayed in media as a kind of punchline. Someone suddenly falling asleep mid-sentence, face-planting into their lunch, or drifting off dramatically during a meeting. But the reality is far more complex and far more nuanced. At its core, narcolepsy is a neurological disorder that disrupts the brain's ability to control sleep-wake cycles. People with narcolepsy may experience excessive daytime sleepiness, sudden sleep attacks, vivid hallucinations, sleep paralysis, and in some cases something called cataplexy, a sudden loss of muscle tone triggered by strong emotions like laughter, surprise, or anger. Imagine walking through your day never quite knowing if the next moment will pull you under like a wave. A sudden, inescapable descent into REM sleep, even when you're trying to stay awake. It's disorienting, sometimes terrifying, and always exhausting. There are two main types of narcolepsy. Type 1 narcolepsy, which includes cataplexy, is linked to a loss of a brain chemical called hypocretin, which helps regulate arousal and alertness. Type 2 narcolepsy involves many of the same symptoms, but without the cataplexy, and often with slightly higher levels of hypocretin. No one chooses this. No one wants it. And yet many people with narcolepsy go years before receiving a proper diagnosis. Why? Because excessive daytime sleepiness is often dismissed. It's attributed to stress, laziness, poor habits. The hallucinations and paralysis get confused with anxiety or even psychosis. And unless you know what to look for, it could be hard to connect the dots. But those who live with it, they know. They feel it. The deep, bone-heavy fatigue. The confusion of waking dreams intruding on daily life. The fear of falling asleep at work, in class, behind the wheel. It's important to remember this isn't about willpower. People with narcolepsy aren't sleepier because they stay up too late. Their brains are constantly misfiring, dipping into REM sleep at the wrong time, yanking them out of it too soon. Sleep attacks can happen without warning. A person might be speaking, reading, or eating, and suddenly they're gone. Just for a moment, but enough to disrupt, enough to derail, enough to make everyday life feel like walking a tightrope in a windstorm. Then there's cataplexy, perhaps the most surreal symptom. It's not falling asleep exactly. It's staying conscious while your muscles suddenly give out legs, buckle arms, drop, speech, slurs. And it's almost always triggered by emotion. Imagine laughing, then collapsing, being surprised and sinking into the floor. It's a dream world breaking into the waking world. It's REM intruding where it doesn't belong. So what causes narcolepsy? Researchers believe it's an autoimmune condition, one where the immune system mistakenly attacks the brain cells that produce hypocrine. That's the neurotransmitter that helps keep you awake and balanced. Without it, sleep regulation falls apart. Narcolepsy usually begins between ages 10 and 25, but it can appear later too. It affects people across all backgrounds, though it's often misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. And once it appears, it doesn't go away, but it can be managed. There's no cure yet, but treatment options exist. Stimulant medications to improve alertness, antidepressants to help with cataplexy, sodium oxybate to stabilize nighttime sleep. Equally important are lifestyle adjustments, short, strategic naps, consistent routines, support networks, and lots of patience. And let's talk about the dreams. People with narcolepsy often experience incredibly vivid, emotional, sometimes terrifying dreams. They may wake up unsure what was real and what was imagined. Their REM cycles start unusually quickly, sometimes within minutes of falling asleep, leading to a dream world that's always just beneath the surface. It can be beautiful, it can be disorienting, and when it's paired with sleep paralysis or hallucinations, it can be haunting. But like all forms of sleep disruption, understanding makes a difference. Awareness leads to compassion. And for people with narcolepsy, being believed, being seen is half the battle. If you live with narcolepsy, or if someone close to you does know this, it's not all in your head. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You're navigating a reality where the rules of sleep and wakefulness don't follow the usual script. And that takes courage. That takes resilience. That takes strength. And if you don't have narcolepsy, but you've ever judged someone for being tired, for zoning out, for seeming off, maybe now you'll pause. Maybe now you'll ask a different question, one that starts with care, not assumption, because no one chooses a brain that doesn't listen to the clock. No one asks for a body that short-circuits its own rhythm. But with support, with science, with storytelling, we can change the narrative. restless leg syndrome when sleep won't sit still. Now, dear dreamer, we're zooming in on a sleep condition that doesn't always make headlines, but for those who live with it, can feel like their own body is working against them every single night. Restless leg syndrome. Just hearing the name, it might sound minor, maybe even a little quirky, but talk to anyone who lives with it, and you'll get a very different picture. It's not just fidgeting, it's not a habit. It's a deeply uncomfortable, often maddening neurological disorder that can leave you physically and emotionally exhausted, especially when all you want is a good night's rest. Restless leg syndrome, or RLS, also called Willis-Ekbom disease, is a condition where you feel an irresistible urge to move your legs, usually because of strange, unpleasant sensations. It often starts in the evening, gets worse at night, and flares up when you're trying to relax. It doesn't hurt exactly, though some people do experience pain, but it's a discomfort that's almost impossible to ignore. Tingling, crawling, buzzing, itching pressure. And the only way to make it stop, at least for a little while, is to move. And so you do, you pace, you stretch, you kick the blankets off and on, you roll and twist and contort. The moment you're still, the sensation creeps back in. And this can go on for hours, robbing you of sleep, sanity, and the quiet moments your body and mind need to recover. RLS affects millions, up to 1 in 10 people, to some degree, and it can strike at any age, though it's more common as we get older. Many people experience it intermittently, but for others, it's a nightly battle. Some live with it for years before getting a diagnosis. Why? Because it's hard to explain, and when a condition is invisible and your symptoms sound vague, like my legs won't settle, it's easy to be dismissed or misunderstood. But the science is starting to catch up. Researchers believe that RLS is related to a dysfunction in the brain's dopamine system, the same system that controls movement. Dopamine is the chemical that helps your brain send messages to muscles and control motion. If your brain isn't producing or processing dopamine properly, signals can go haywire, and your body may start to misfire even when there's no reason to move. Iron also plays a key role. That's because iron is necessary for dopamine production. Some people with RLS have low levels of brain iron even when their blood iron appears normal. It's a subtle but significant imbalance, and one that can seriously disrupt your sleep. Other factors can intensify RLS or trigger it entirely. It's more common during pregnancy, especially in the 3rd trimester. Chronic kidney disease is a known risk. So are certain neurological or autoimmune disorders. Some medications like antihistamines, antidepressants, and antipsychotics can worsen symptoms or trigger them in people who are genetically prone. Then there are lifestyle triggers, caffeine, alcohol, and somewhat ironically poor sleep. Because RLS tends to get worse the more sleep-deprived you become, it can create a vicious cycle. You can't sleep because your legs won't let you, and because you can't sleep your legs get worse. Imagine this: it's late, you're tired, your bed is soft, the room is quiet. You lie down, close your eyes, and within minutes your legs begin to twitch. Not visibly, not dramatically, but deep under the surface, a sensation that builds and builds until it's unbearable. You shift positions, you rub your calves, you stretch, you walk to the kitchen, you come back, you try again. But your legs have decided this isn't the night you don't get to rest. For many, this goes on for years without treatment. The condition is underdiagnosed in part because it masquerades as anxiety or gets brushed off as just can't sit still. But for those who have it, it's relentless. It steals time, rest, and sometimes hope. The good news: there are ways to manage it. The first step is getting a proper diagnosis. If you regularly experience an overwhelming need to move your legs when resting, particularly in the evening, and that movement brings temporary relief, it's worth speaking with a sleep specialist or neurologist. They'll often check your ferritin levels, a marker of stored iron. Ask about your sleep and family history and rule out other causes. If iron levels are low, supplements may be recommended. And here's the catch: even if your regular blood tests look normal, your brain might still be running low. So it's important to test specifically for ferritin and work with a doctor to supplement safely, because too much iron can be harmful. For more persistent or severe cases, medication can help. Some drugs mimic dopamine in the brain, essentially smoothing out the misfires. Others, like certain anticonvulsants, help calm nerve activity and reduce sensations. But meds aren't perfect. Over time, some people experience augmentation, where symptoms start earlier in the day or spread to other parts of the body. So treatment often involves trial, error, and adjustment. Beyond medication, lifestyle plays a major role. Good sleep hygiene is essential. Keeping a regular sleep schedule, avoiding caffeine or alcohol close to bedtime, and creating a calm, dark, cool sleep environment. Exercise during the day can help, especially light stretching and walking. Some people swear by leg massages, warm baths, cold packs, or vibrating pads. Others find that even minor adjustments like raising the foot of the bed or switching medications can bring relief. But above all, what people with RLS need is validation, understanding, support. Not to be told to just relax or just stay still. Because it's not a matter of willpower, it's a matter of wiring. Living with RLS means building a toolkit. It means knowing your triggers, tracking your rhythms, and giving your nervous system the best chance at stability. It means finding comfort where you can, in warm socks, in slow stretches, in doctors who listen. So if you've ever felt like your legs are staging a mutiny just as you're trying to drift off, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. There is help, there are strategies, and yes, there is hope for peaceful sleep. The million-dollar question: how to have the best sleep of your life. Because no matter how fascinating dreams are, or how mysterious sleep can be, one truth remains: good sleep is a superpower, and it's one you can learn to harness. Let's crack open the ultimate sleep toolkit: habits, mindset, science, and strategy, so you can rest better, dream deeper, and wake up like you actually slept. Before we build the dream, let's clear the rubble. Everyone needs exactly 8 hours, nope. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours, but quality matters more than hitting a number. You can catch up on sleep on weekends, not really. While extra rest helps, it doesn't fully repair the cognitive and metabolic toll of chronic sleep debt. Alcohol helps you sleep. It knocks you out but wrecks REM and leads to fragmented, shallow sleep. You should stay in bed if you can't sleep. Actually, this trains your brain to associate bed with frustration. If you're not asleep after approximately 20 minutes, get up, do something calming, then return. The truth is, sleep is not about force, it's about flow. Creating the right conditions so sleep can do what it was designed to do. Good sleep starts before you hit the pillow. Let's talk rhythm, ritual, and environment. Consistency is king or queen. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even weekends. This stabilizes your circadian rhythm, which regulates hormones, body temperature, and sleep drive. The more consistent your schedule, the stronger your natural sleep signals become. Wind down intentionally. Your brain doesn't go from full alert to deep sleep like flipping a switch. You need a ramp down period. Start at least an hour before bed. Dim the lights, turn off or dim screens, avoid stressful conversations or intense content. Do something calming, read, stretch, journal, meditate. This creates what scientists call a buffer zone, a clear shift from waking mode to rest mode. Design a bedroom for sleep. Cool, ideally 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 to 19 degrees Celsius. Dark blackout curtains, sleep mask, quiet white noise earplugs, comfortable, good mattress, clean sheets, cozy but breathable bedding. To remove clutter, if you can make it a sanctuary, not a storage unit or an office. Your brain should associate the room with sleep, not stress. Sleep is powered by rhythm and ritual, but also by hormones. Here's how to work with, not against, your natural chemistry. Let light in early. Natural sunlight in the morning signals your body to stop melatonin production and boost cortisol in a good way. It resets your circadian clock and improves nighttime sleep. Try to get outside or near a bright window within the first hour of waking. Dim light at night. Blue light from screen suppresses melatonin. Reduce screen time at night or use blue light filters and apps. Even better, swap scrolling for analog wind down time. Watch caffeine timing. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours. If you drink coffee at 4:00 p.m., it's still in your system at 10 o'clock. Try to cut off caffeine after 2 p.m. or earlier if you're sensitive. Go easy on alcohol. Alcohol reduces sleep latency. You fall asleep faster, but fragment sleep cycles disrupt REM and leads to early waking. If you drink, try to stop at least 3 hours before bed. Sometimes your body is ready to sleep, but your brain isn't. Here's how to shift from overthinking into rest mode. Journaling. Dump your thoughts before bed, to-do lists, worries, feelings. Get them out of your head and onto paper. It frees up mental bandwidth. Meditation and breath work. Try box breathing body scans or guided sleep meditations. These lower heart rate, reduces cortisol, and shift you into parasympathetic rest and digest mode. Cognitive behavioral strategies. If you struggle with insomnia or anxiety about sleep, CBTI techniques can help reframe your relationship with sleep. A key shift is stop trying to sleep. Focus on rest and let sleep come. What if you're doing everything right and still struggling? Rule out underlying issues. Sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, depression, chronic pain all can wreck sleep. Track patterns using a sleep diary. Ask yourself the main question: what's going on in your head as you're trying to fall asleep? Are you overthinking? Thinking about your plan for the next day? Are you stressed, anxious? If your mind's not at peace, peaceful sleep will not come. Consider short-term use of sleep aids under medical supervision, but aim for behavioral solutions long-term. Talk to a sleep specialist. You don't have to white-knuckle it alone. Sleep is vital, and if it's broken, you deserve real support. You don't have to chase perfect sleep. You just need to create a reliable rhythm, a gentle structure, and a mindset that honors sleep, not as weakness, but as your core power source. because the truth is better sleep means a better life, more focus, more energy, more resilience, and yes, better dreams. So, take what you've learned, build your sleep ritual, let it evolve with you, and when the day winds down, remind yourself this is not time lost, it's time returned to your body, to your mind, to yourself. How to interpret dreams, symbols, scenarios, and sleepy secrets. We're cracking open the fun side of dreaming, the interpretive side, the mysterious and meaning-filled side. Now, we're not here to claim that your brain dropping all your teeth in a dream means you're absolutely losing control of your life, or that dreaming about flying means you're secretly about to win the lottery. But let's be honest, part of the magic of dreaming is wondering what it might mean, even if it's just for fun. So tonight, we're stepping into the role of curious observers. Think of it like being invited into your brain's theatre of the absurd. You've been handed a dream script, and now we get to play amateur detectives trying to understand what's really going on behind the curtain. When people talk about interpreting dreams, there are generally two camps. Those who see it as profound and symbolic, and those who see it as entertaining but essentially nonsense. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. Dreams don't come with subtitles. They don't speak in plain language. They communicate in metaphor, feeling distortion in symbols that might mean something entirely different to you than they would to anyone else. And yet, patterns emerge, archetypes appear, repeated motifs crop up across cultures, centuries, and human lives. Why do so many people dream of being chased, of falling, of losing their teeth? What is it about these scenarios that feels so universal? Let's walk through some of the most commonly reported dreams, not as hard truths, but as invitations, lenses through which to consider what your subconscious might be whispering. Teeth falling out is a classic. You're standing in front of a mirror or talking to someone, and suddenly your teeth crumble, drop, dissolve. It's unsettling, often horrifying. Theories. This dream is commonly tied to feelings of powerlessness, insecurity, or concern about appearance. It could be about aging vulnerability, or a fear of saying something wrong, of your words losing their bite. Freud predictably had a more sexual take, but many people associate it with self-esteem or change, especially if you're going through something that makes you feel exposed or out of control. Now take dreams where you're being chased. You're running breathless through streets or forests, pursued by something, often faceless, sometimes monstrous, sometimes just a vague presence. You never quite see it, but it's always right behind you. These dreams tend to crop up when we're avoiding something in waking life: conflict, responsibility, emotion. The chase becomes a symbol of evasion, your mind turning psychological pressure into physical pursuit. Then there's flying, arguably one of the best kinds of dreams. Soaring over rooftops, arms outstretched, untethered. These dreams often feel euphoric. Flying can symbolize freedom, ambition, or rising above something, but it can also reflect escape, a desire to flee or detach from something heavy. The emotional tone matters. Is the flying effortless, joyful, or are you struggling to stay aloft? Another frequent visitor is the falling dream. You're standing somewhere on a ladder, a cliff, or for no reason at all, and suddenly you drop. A jolt, a shock, sometimes enough to wake you up. These are often about insecurity or a lack of control. Maybe you're starting something new, facing a shift in your relationships or career. Your subconscious translates that unease into gravity's betrayal. And then the dream where you're naked in public, at school, at work, in the middle of a party. No one else seems to notice, but you are mortified. This one's all about exposure, not just physical but emotional. It speaks to vulnerability, to a fear of being judged or seen in a way you're not prepared for. Let's not forget the dreaded exam dream. Sitting down to a test you didn't study for with a pencil that keeps breaking a clock that ticks too fast. It's almost comical, but it stings. These dreams usually crop up around performance anxiety, and they happen even to people long out of school. Why? Because school was the first place many of us felt tested, and that stress language sticks. Missing a train or flight is another symbolic stress dream. You're late, you're running, the door closes just as you reach it. These often signal feelings of being overwhelmed, of time slipping through your fingers, of fearing missed opportunities. And then there are the poignant dreams. Dreams of someone who has passed away. These aren't just memories, they're vivid visitations. You wake up feeling shaken or comforted, sometimes both. Often these dreams signal longing, unfinished business, or a deep need for connection. Whether you see them as spiritual or psychological, they're undeniably powerful. Now, water, oceans, floods, rain, baths. Water in dreams is like mood lighting. It sets the tone. Calm water might reflect peace or emotional flow. Storms and tsunamis, emotional overload. Drowning, fear of being consumed by something, grief, love, anxiety. Water in dream language tends to symbolize the emotional unconscious. It's rarely just about getting wet. Finally, pregnancy dreams, even when pregnancy isn't remotely part of your waking life. These often reflect something new, gestating an idea, a project, a change. It might be a new version of yourself, something about to emerge. Birth in dream language is rarely literal. It's symbolic of transformation. So, how do you interpret your own dreams without relying solely on dusty dream dictionaries? Start by keeping a dream journal. Nothing fancy, just a notebook by your bed. Write down whatever fragments you remember, even if they feel disjointed or absurd. Over time, you'll start to notice patterns. Pay attention to feelings, not just what happened, but how you felt in the dream and how you felt upon waking. Emotions are the bridge between dream and waking life. They often hold more weight than the imagery itself. Then look for associations. What do those dream symbols mean to you? A snake might mean danger to one person and healing to another. Context and personal history matter more than any one size-fits-all definition. And remember, not every dream has to mean something. Sometimes dreams are just mental house cleaning, the brain's way of filing, sorting, deleting. But when a dream lingers, when it repeats, when it strikes an emotional chord, and that's worth exploring. So have fun with it. Play detective. Be the analyst, the poet, the storyteller. Let your dreams be both puzzle and poetry. And so, dear dreamer, our journey through the landscapes of sleep comes to a close. We have wandered through dreams, nightmares, and mysteries. And now it is time to simply rest. Let go of thoughts, let go of time, and allow sleep to carry you gently into the night. Good night and sweet dreams.